Welcome to episode 37 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, the Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. If you're a new listener and you enjoy the show, we would really appreciate it if you give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple. And if you're watching us on YouTube, it would be a big time help if you smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. All right, everybody. As of Sunday, October 17th, 2021, the NHL season is officially underway, and the Toronto Maple Leafs are 2-1 after their first 3 games against the Montreal Canadiens and Ottawa Senators. We are going to get into the week that was and give you our thoughts and opinions on everything that went down with the Toronto Maple Leafs. But first, we finally have our winner of the Auston Matthews jersey giveaway. It's been a long time coming, but we finally have our winner. And for that and more, it is officially time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well, man. Some extra jam I felt in that intro from Anthony Bruno today. He's excited. It must be the season getting started. Episode 37. Shout out goes to Ian White, puck-moving defenseman who started his career with the Maple Leafs before being a part of the Dion Phaneuf trade. I even looked back to Ian White's World Junior team that had Carlo Koliakovo, Brendan Bell, and Matt Stajan, 4 Leafs prospects. And I'll often think, imagine today with all the hype of the World Juniors, if there was a team that had 4 Toronto Maple Leafs prospects, like the hype, it'd be crazy. And say what you want about how those 4 players turned out, but hey, just add it to the history.
I like Ian White, man. I was an Ian White guy. Nice, smooth puck moving defenseman. I love that show, though.
Even Stajan. I mean, Stajan had a solid career in the NHL. But speaking of jerseys and jersey numbers, as you mentioned, it is officially time to give away the authentic Auston Matthews jersey. Bruno and I went over the submissions that were left on the YouTube channel, and the lucky winner is from Pembroke, Ontario, Clayton Mishak. He gave a pretty solid. Congratulations, Clayton. We hope you rock the jersey proudly. We will, one of us will fire you a DM on Instagram and we'll set that up. We'll get your mailing address and we'll get it to you as soon as possible. But it was great, man. A lot of fun going over the submissions. And as we've mentioned before on the pod, Bruno and I want to make giveaways a consistent part of our podcast. We have some ideas lined up. So keep listening, keep watching for more details on that. It's going to be like Christmas all the time on the Gluttons For Punishment podcast.
Awesome, Lepore. I love it. And yeah, shout out to all the GFP supporters out there. There were a ton of entries and we went through every single entry. We appreciate it so much that you guys are listening to the podcast, watching the podcast on YouTube. And there was a lot of really good entries. But once again, congratulations to Clayton Mishak from Pembroke, Ontario. And yeah, like Lepore said, we will be in touch with you and we will be getting you that jersey as soon as possible. And stay tuned for more jersey giveaways in the future. It's going to be great.
One thing from Clayton, though, he made the point in his entry that Pembroke's considered Sens country. And I was kind of surprised at that. I mean, like, here I am in Ottawa, like Pembroke's not that close. I mean, Clayton, man, we expect you to do some converting out there and turn Pembroke blue.
Yes, turn everything blue. We want Leafs Nation all over the place. We want GFP Nation.
Yeah, there you go.
Over the place.
There you go.
All right, let's now get into the games here, Lepore, and let's start things off with opening night.
Opening night, baby.
Wednesday, October 13th, the Habs were in Toronto to take on the Leafs in the first game of the season. And just going through some news and notes from the game. So we found out before opening night that Auston Matthews would miss at least the first week of the season. And
Mm.
right now, it looks like Auston Matthews might actually miss even more time in these first 3 games. We're still kind of waiting for news on that. He's still recovering from that wrist surgery in the offseason, but he should be back, you would think, either at some point this week or next week at the latest. But anyway, Auston Matthews, Ilya Mikheyev out 8 weeks with a broken thumb. But just getting into what happened in the game, the Leafs won the game 2-1. Jonathan Drouin got the scoring started, his first goal since February. That was nice to see.
Yeah, good for him.
So good for Jonathan Drouin coming back with a goal. And then Pierre Engvall tied the game on the power play. And William Nylander with an unreal snipe in the third period for the game-winning goal. Jack Campbell, 31 saves in the victory. The Leafs went 4 for 4 on the penalty kill. They killed off a massive 2-man advantage in the third period, so that was great to see. But Lepore, your take from opening night, because the Leafs got off to an egregious start.
Oh, man.
Like, it looked brutal, but they settled down and ended up winning the game. But I want to throw things to you first for your take on the first game of the season.
If someone asked me to describe this game or describe the first 3 games for the Maple Leafs for that matter, what I would say, and it's typical because you know what life's like for Leafs fans, is that it's like a relationship that's just so complicated because you look at it and some things are so good and some things are so bad. So starting with game 1, as you mentioned, Bruno, that was a total disaster to begin with. I mean, first things first, again, as a Leaf fan, we all should have bet our houses that the Habs were going to score first, like absolute no-brainer. But even before that, like the first shift of the game, Montreal dumps it in, big scoring chance. Campbell bails us out. And then again, and the goal, typical, a turnover. So here we go. And of all people, Muzzin, like the last guy we'd expect to turn the puck over, it's Jake. Just brutal. Things are not looking good. But lucky enough, as you mentioned, the power play clicked. It was Engvall who, with a nice shot, actually, is low to the far corner. I like his Sally too. That guy listens to a lot of crap. I think like underrated Leaf player who takes a lot of shit. Pierre Engvall is definitely.
Lepore, remember on the last podcast, I told GFP Nation that I'm a Pierre Engvall guy.
Your boys did well this week. Your boys did well.
So he came through Pierre Engvall in game 1 with that PPG. So shout out Engvall. Shout out the giraffe.
He's like what, 6'5"?
Yeah, 6'5", 210, 215.
From Sweden. It's like it's got check all the boxes, right? But
he's
whatever,
just not wearing number 13, I guess. Right?
Yeah, that's the problem. Leafs actually turned it on a little bit to finish the first period. They hit 2 posts. It was one from Sandin, who's looked great so far, and one from TJ Brody. Moving on to the second period, you mentioned Willie scored the goal to put the Leafs up 2-1, but Nylander had a fantastic period. He was buzzing everywhere. He was setting guys up. There's a few chances in close. Jake Allen made some big saves. Nylander had some scoring chances on his own. But I just felt like he was the man in this game. And I don't think it's a hot take to say, I mean, he scored 2 goals, but I don't think it's a hot take to say Nylander's been the Leafs' best player. Over the 100%
agree,
games of the season.
He's got 4 points in 3 games, leads the team in scoring. He's looked like the most dangerous player on the ice, like hands down. And Tavares and Marner are off to a slow start. Like they only got 1 point each in their first 3 games, but they are generating chances. It's not like they're doing nothing out there. But man, Nylander has looked really, really good.
He looks strong. Like he just looks like, I don't know if someone say like thicker, but he just looks strong out there, like more of a man for like better terminology.
Strong, confident with the puck. Like especially down low, Nylander low key like is a beast. Down low in the offensive zone with the puck, man.
I saw a stat and like, I remember last year, like the whole, like how your uncle hates Nylander. I think there was some weird stat where like nobody scores more goals in close than William Nylander over the last like season or a couple seasons or something like that. So people just see a Swede with long hair and they don't expect that, but that's the reality.
Exactly. Everyone just gives him shit and says that he's a perimeter player and he's soft. But if you actually sit down and watch this guy play for, a couple of games and not just speak out of your, what, then you'll notice that William Nylander is actually, there's a lot more to him than you realize. And especially down low in the dirty areas in front of the net, he can get the job done. So shout out Nylander, who's off to a great start this season.
What a player. We'll just moved on to the third period. Not a whole lot to report. Campbell had a solid period, and he made, I don't know if he didn't get the first star, I'm sure he was definitely in the conversation, but he made 12 third period saves. Montreal had some flurry at the end. So they actually outshot Toronto to finish the game. The final shot count was 32-30, but Money Puck had the Leafs winning this matchup 75% of the time. So good all around performance as far as the underlying numbers go for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah. And that's usually what the Leafs do, right? We sound like a broken record sometimes on this podcast. It's like every single game, I shouldn't say every game, but more games than not, this team is out shooting their opponents, out chancing their opponents, out possessing their opponent. And that's just what they do. And they're going to win more games than they lose, but there's going to be frustrating games where the Leafs are doing all those things and they're losing the game. And this felt like it could have been one of those games, especially that start was just awful.
Horrible.
The first 10 minutes, it was just a disaster. Guys were giving the puck away. No one could make a pass. The Habs were beating the Leafs to every single puck. Like, I was just sitting there thinking, oh my God. And I didn't want to get carried away and say this season is over after the first 10 minutes, but you could not start the season
shut it down
worse than they did in those first 10 minutes on home ice against the Montreal Canadiens. So I'm glad that they bounced back and they started finding their game in the second and third period. You know, like I mentioned, they started out shooting the Habs, out possessing them. They had just more life to their game. So that was nice to see. But overall, I'm happy they got the win. And you mentioned Jack Campbell. You know, you talk about William Nylander, who's probably been the best player so far. I mean, let's say the best skater. But man, Jack Campbell arguably has been the Leafs' best player so far this season. Yeah. You know, great in the first game, obviously great on Saturday night against the Senators, which we'll get to later. And then even in the Thursday game, he had to come in for an injured Peter Mrazek.
He did.
And went 10 for 10, not allowing a goal. So he's been awesome as well. But yeah, this game, I mean, there's not really too much else, I guess, Lepore, to take from this game. Like, I guess, you know what? Another thing that I mentioned leading into this, the penalty kill. They killed off that massive two-man advantage in the third period. And that's a spot last season where two-man advantage, you're like, okay, good night, Leafs. Like, they're going to find a way to allow a goal here. And this game is going to be, who knows? It's going to be up for grabs. It's going to go to, who knows? Maybe it doesn't end the way that it does, but that was great to see. Justin Hall actually slid across and made an unreal block. I forgot who the shooter was, but that was essentially like a game-saving play.
I think it was Gallagher, actually.
Was it Gallagher?
Because I think I remember Gallagher looking up at the sky. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, that was great to see. 4 for 4 on the PK, and I'm sure the special teams are going to be better across the board this season. The power play has looked pretty solid so far. The penalty kill has been pretty good. So yeah, other than that, Lepore, I think we can probably move on to the next game unless there's any other thoughts you had about game one.
Yeah, that's pretty much a wrap. But something I thought during the game, and I'll ask you, if you were a player, do you think you'd rather start the season at home or on the road?
Interesting. You know what? I'd probably rather start the season at home. Just it's more comfortable. You get the fans behind you, the player intros, which always fire you up. But again, you could flip it around and say when you're on the road, right, there's less pressure.
Exactly. Less hype. You just play. You just show up and play as opposed to listening to it. Because I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking, I'd probably rather start on the road just to like avoid all that for the first game and then go home and deal with it. And at least hopefully at that point you have your skates a little better.
Are you blaming the slow start on the Leafs being too comfortable? And
100%. Was there not a joke? I remember like in those like horrible years for the Leafs, every time there was some sort of ceremony or shout out to a Stanley Cup winner or something or Hall of Fame game, the Leafs always lost. A bad start and they always lost. So it's kind of like the joke, like bet your house against the Leafs if there's some sort of ceremony to start the game. But it's the whole thing. Like, you're standing around, man. Like you're standing around waiting. Usually the game doesn't start the time it's supposed to start. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, no excuses if you lose your home opener, but I'm just saying, I think I'd rather start on the road.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And I guess before we move on to the next game, we could quickly bring up the Montreal Canadiens.
As we always love to.
And it's funny because the GFP podcast almost turned into a Montreal Canadiens podcast at one point last year during their playoff run.
At least our comment section did.
Oh, we had a ton of fun during that Habs playoff run.
Yeah, Bruno and I are going to have to go on the witness protection program.
Oh, my God. I cannot step foot in the province of Quebec. Like, if I go anywhere near Montreal, like, there's definitely a hit list for me in Montreal. Like,
nice.
It's bad. But, no, listen, the Habs, they don't look good at all. No. They have now started the season 0-3. They've scored 3 goals in 3 games. They've been outscored 10-3. They lost 5-1 to Buffalo, Lepore.
Mm-hmm.
Who loses 5-1 to Buffalo? Like, that's just a disaster. So, yeah, the Habs, they got to figure things out. And I understand. There's no Carey Price. There's no Shea Weber. Mike Hoffman hasn't played yet. Same with Joel Edmondson. But, you know, a lot of people were expecting big things from Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki this season. And Tyler Toffoli, who essentially had a career year last season from a goal scoring perspective, but it has been a rough start to the season for the Habs, Lepore.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like, it's just a big pile of shit for Montreal right now. I mean, losing in the Stanley Cup final was a huge, or even I'll reverse saying making it to the Stanley Cup final is a huge achievement for that organization. Unfortunately for them, they weren't able to do it, but it creates a shorter offseason. You kind of have that hangover of going all the way. And it was just like, there was drama. Like, there was so much drama with Montreal going back to the draft, and then Weber, Carey Price, the Kotkaniemi thing. You mentioned Edmondson and Hoffman not playing. They lose their first game, and now it's like Caulfield hasn't, I don't even think he's put up a point yet. I think Suzuki's got 1 assist. I might be wrong about that, but they haven't looked that great. I've seen a lot of Habs fans kind of vent some concern on message boards about that. The Suzuki signing, I mean, I'm sure that pumped people up a bit, but there's just a lot of negativity right now. And people can say I'm getting ahead of myself, but Montreal better turn things around in a hurry. Like, that division is going to be a competitive division with Toronto, Boston, Tampa, Florida. And like, Ottawa's not a sleeper, man. We saw in those 2 games against the Leafs, like, the Sens are here, they're coming to play, and they work hard every night, and they're going to be in your face. So Montreal better turn things around quickly. Because I will say about that team and that style of team, and then you throw in no Price, like the Weber situation, certain teams can get off to a slow start and you're not really worried because there's a certain type of talent they have that you can say, you know what, at some point they're going to have like a 7-game win streak or win 9 out of 10 at home. I don't see that for Montreal. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't see Montreal as a team that if they start, say, 500 through 20 games, they'll be like, at some point they'll have a month where they're the best team in the league. I don't see that. And again, that part of that opinion includes Carey Price and Weber not being in the lineup. I think we learned last year, if you had any doubts with Carey Price, like, throw them in the trash because he's just too good when he wants to be and he dials it in. So you could say, at some point Price will have an unbelievable month and play out of his mind. Things will turn things around. But without Price, I mean, he could still come back. But a lot of question marks in Montreal, man. Like, I wouldn't be walking with a swagger if I was a Habs fan today. That's for sure.
And with Carey Price and Shea Weber, it isn't even like their talent level. Like, we know how good both of those players are. It's just like their presence.
100%. Yeah.
In the locker room, just around the team. Like, those are 2 legends, essentially, right? Like, those are 2 guys that
Hall of Famers
are Hall of Famers, right? And to not have those guys around, it's rough. So, and you said it, Lepore, I'm going through the numbers here. Cole Caulfield, 0 points in 3 games. He's a -1. Nick Suzuki, also 0 points in 3 games. He's a -2.
Yeah.
Brendan Gallagher, 0 points in 3 games. Tyler Toffoli, 0 points in 3 games. Jeff Petrie, who has emerged as one of the better offensive defensemen in the league over the last few seasons, he also has gone pointless in his first 3 games. So they got to get the offense going here. And like you said, this Atlantic division this season, it's going to be tough. Florida looks really good. Boston, I mean, still a very good team, despite losing David Pastrnak, who went back to the Czech Republic. And then, of course, the two-time defending champion.
It was Krejci.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Did I just say? I just
said Pastrnak. I'm like, did I miss something? Pastrnak left the Bruins.
It was definitely David Krejci who went back to play.
Wishful thinking there from Anthony Bruno. Yeah, David Pastrnak just left the Boston Bruins.
I'm trying to speak a 50-goal scorer leaving the Boston Bruins into existence, just casually going back to the Czech Republic. Yeah, it was definitely David Krejci who went back. But yeah, I mean, the Bruins are still a good team. And then, like you said, Lepore, with these Ottawa Senators, like they're going to battle all season long. Again, I don't think the Senators are a playoff team, but that's a team that is going to battle each and every night and put up a fight. And then the Buffalo Sabres, who are somehow 2-0 after the first two games. I'm not going to get carried away. Again, I don't think they're even close to being a playoff team. But yeah, when you go through this division, and you said it, man, like if you get off to a slow start here and you don't have a ton of offensive weapons like the Montreal Canadiens do not have, it might be tough if you're 10 games in and you only have 3 or 4 wins. So they got to turn this thing around in a hurry.
Yeah. One thing someone pointed out was just their power play. I mean, for the last couple of years, it's been, and it was dangerous, get it to Weber and he blasts one. And get in the way, but don't let it hit you. And it's either going to go in or something's going to happen. And you take that away, right? It's not easy, man, to adapt to that. And even too, like I love Petrie, but he's not that guy. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see how Montreal handles the situation and if they're able to get out of this rut. Because like I said, there's a lot of negativity in La Belle Provence right now.
Oh yeah, and those fans, they won't hold anything back. If that team's not playing well, they're just as passionate as Leaf fans are, right?
Yeah.
So they are not going to hold back whatsoever, and the media is going to start going crazy as well. But again, we don't want to totally panic. Only 3 games into the season, but it has been a very rough 3 games for the Montreal Canadiens. It's time for a quick break for a word from MANSCAPED, which has partnered with the Gluttons For Punishment podcast. MANSCAPED is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. MANSCAPED just launched its 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust MANSCAPED with this exclusive offer for you, GFP Nation, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code GFP20 at manscaped.com. Lepore, these products are awesome.
Yeah, man. You mentioned that Lawnmower 4.0. I have, of course, heard of Manscaped in the past. And I always kind of thought like, heck, it's a razor. What's the big deal? But once I tried it, this product is the Wayne Gretzky of precision trimming. That LED light is something out of this world. What a great idea. What a great feature to it. We're very grateful to have them partner with the Gluttons For Punishment podcast. I don't know if we should feel it's a compliment or an insult, or maybe they just knew Bruno and I are both Italians and we need help in that area. But it's exciting time for us. And again, great products, and I'd recommend them to anyone in need.
Absolutely, man. And like you said, 2 Italian men, sometimes it's a pretty hairy situation. So these products from Manscaped have been a big time help. Super smooth, awesome experience. I mean, it's a perfect gift. It's a perfect gift for
Christmas is coming, everyone,
for your friends and family. So big shout out to Manscaped. And Lepore, there's some other products that they gave us that you also want to talk about.
Very excited to talk about this, Bruno. So I am holding up, for those watching on YouTube, I am holding up the Manscaped underwear. When I heard that Manscaped was going to be sending us some underwear with our package, pun intended, I kind of thought, yeah, they're going to send me some crappy cotton underwear with a Manscaped stamped logo on it. That was in no way the case. We have some high quality microfiber stuff here. If there's 2 things people know about Michael Lepore, it's number 1, he's a jersey snob, and number 2, he's an underwear snob. And this Manscaped underwear goes toe to toe with any of my expensive pairs of underwear. I'll also throw in this t-shirt. I want to talk about this t-shirt that was part of the deal. there with the MANSCAPED logo and the slogan on it. Again, I kind of expected just a crappy cotton t-shirt that fit really baggy and maybe it's something I'd wear to bed or something. It's a well-fitted quality t-shirt,
it's legit.
Man. It's got some stretch. It fits nice on the shoulders and the arms. I was shocked. So big props to MANSCAPED for like the quality products they're giving out. And again, we wouldn't want to partner with a company that wasn't doing something like that. So Bruno and I are just proud to be a part of it.
Big time. And Lepore, you said about the underwear, there is nothing worse than a crappy pair of boxers.
Brutal.
But these boxers from MANSCAPED, oh my goodness, just perfectly smooth, feels amazing. So you just can't go wrong. Awesome products. Awesome. Thank you so much to MANSCAPED. Just to go over a couple of other things. The biggest thing with the Lawnmower 4.0 is the advanced skin-safe technology. This upgraded trimmer includes a multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel lock. It also gives the ability to turn on the 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave like we talked about. The Lawnmower 4.0 even allows you to customize your trim through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 through 4. And the new wireless charging system is awesome, using electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length last longer. So once again, get 20% off and free shipping with the code GFP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code GFP20. All right, time to move on now to the second game of the week for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Michael Lepore was in the building at the Canadian Tire Center.
Of course I was.
As the Toronto Maple Leafs went into Ottawa to take on the Senators on Thursday night. Just some notes from this game. So prior to the game, the morning of this game, the Senators signed Brady Tkachuk finally to a 7-year, $57.5 million contract. Peter Mrazek got the start for the Leafs in the back-to-back situation. Like I mentioned, he actually got injured and left the game after the second period with a groin injury. But again, a slow start for the Leafs. The Senators jumped out to a 3-0 first period lead. There was the kick-in goal from Chris Tierney. Tyler Ennis scored on the power play, and then Alex Formenton scored with 1 second left in the period. So once again, it was a disastrous first period for the Leafs. But they did show some fight again. They battled back. 2 power play goals from Jason Spezza and William Nylander in the third. Lepore, they outshot the Senators 25-10 in the third period. So there was a moment there. It looked like the Leafs were going to come back and send that game to overtime. Obviously, it was too little too late. But Lepore, you were in the building that night. So how was it? And just give us your take on the game in general.
Always a good time to go to a Leafs game in Ottawa. A lot of blue jerseys in the crowd. The Brady Tkachuk thing was cool. Like, obviously him being in the building, giving the wave. And it's a good thing for Sens fans. Like, Sens fans, as everyone knows, last couple of years have had to deal with a lot of crap. So to see a guy commit, to see that player, that name commit to the team long-term, I think is a big, big win for the fans and the organization. So that was cool to see. In terms of the game itself, we could have dedicated this entire podcast to all the crap, both positive and negative, that happened in that game. Start things off. Ottawa's first goal comes off an Engvall turnover. And like, it wasn't bad enough. You could see early, like, Forsberg was on. Like those a few quick chances from Toronto, Forsberg was making saves. You're like, this isn't going to be.
He was ridiculous.
Yeah, I think there was even one point, like, Nylander, I'm sure they were speaking in Swedish, was kind of laughing, like, bro, you're going to let one in at some point? But speaking of Swedes, the first goal came off an Engvall turnover. And here, this is Engvall in a nutshell, right? First period, opening night, scores the goal on the power play to tie the game. We forgot to touch on that at the end of that game, when the Leafs were up by 1 and Montreal pulled the goalie, he took that shot from before his own, before in the
awful decision.
Yeah, before the red line for the icing. So, like, hashtag Toronto Maple Leafs, all Leafs fans are sitting in their chair just waiting for Montreal to tie the game. And Keith laughed about it after, or made a joke about it in his presser, but I'm sure he wasn't laughing about it in the locker room. And I'm sure he chewed up Engvall pretty
he
good
probably
for that
reamed
one.
him out, especially after watching the All or Nothing documentary.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
So he finishes that game with that and then starts this game with a turnover. But then the goal itself, okay? Again, Toronto had a terrible first period. They deserve to be down. But I cannot for the life of me, and this is not even like a Leafs talk, a Leafs versus Sens talk. This is like a general hockey talk. If that is not a kick, I don't know what a kick is. And is it to the point where the guy has to bicycle kick it in the net for it to be considered a kicking motion?
You have to be Cristiano Ronaldo winding up to take a free kick, basically, for a ref to say that a puck has been kicked.
And like, to me, it's one of those things, like there's certain things in the NHL that we shit on refs a lot for. And sometimes I'll step back and be like, that's tough, or like that's great. It can go both ways. The kicking motion thing, and I was talking to a buddy about this, is the way I see it is people say, oh, okay, you can redirect it. You're allowed to redirect it. Well, to me, a redirect is like pivoting your skate. You can see when the skate just kind of slants and turns to get the blade on an angle where if the puck goes off it, it'll go in the direction of the net. But in that case, you saw Tierney's foot as the puck came jerk forwards towards the net. So if that jerk forward towards the net is not a kick, it has, I guess, it just straight up has to be like a blatant full kick now. And I know they make these rules to try to take the thinking out of it. Like they want to make it as black and white as possible. But I was always told that this rule was meant to protect the goalies. They don't want the puck in the crease, guys kicking at it. And even some people have said, why not just make the rule you can kick it, but your skate has to stay on the ice? They're like, no, because if the puck's in the crease, they don't want people chopping their skates at the goalie. But in that case, like a jerk motion was made going forward. And this specific case wasn't dangerous for the goalie, but it could be like that type of motion could be dangerous. So I don't know. And not like overly dangerous before people start flipping out on me. I just thought like total neutral perspective. I didn't like that one. And even I can say again, I was in the building when they showed it up on the Jumbotron. A lot of Sens fans were confused that it counted. So I'm not alone on that one for sure.
It's crazy that we've now had two incidents like this the first week of the NHL season. Opening night, Vegas against Seattle. The exact same thing happened, almost a carbon copy. The puck comes cross ice to Chandler Stevenson. And again, he kicks, redirects, jerks the puck into the net. They said that it wasn't a kicking motion, that he redirected it. And so it was a good goal. Mm-hmm. I think it's total trash. I think you can't, it's like you said, Lepore, it's like, what do you need to do for this to be a kick? Like, do you literally have to wind up and kick it like you're kicking a soccer ball? Like, this is crazy. Like, I can understand if you're, again, you maybe angle your skate and it's kind of like happening naturally almost, where it's like you're like moving your skate and like by accident it like hits off your skate and goes into the net or something, right? But when dudes are like literally like moving their skate and like you called it like almost like a jerking motion, not necessarily like a full kick, like, come on. I know it's a little bit of a gray area, but in both scenarios, the player's skate came off the ice a little bit. It happened with Chandler Stevenson. It happened with Chris Tierney. I don't think those goals should count whatsoever. And it's like you said, like, I'm sitting there confused. I'm like, how is this? Like, can the NHL explain this? Because this bullshit that, you know, they're just redirecting the puck and it's a good goal because of that, and it's not a distinct kicking motion, I think is complete garbage. Because at some point, like, if that's not a kick, Lepore, then what the hell is a kick at this point?
Yeah, it's funny. The irony about the whole thing is that when I saw the Chandler Stevenson one, my first reaction was like, that's not going to count. Because again, that skate kind of moved forward. And then it did count. And what I thought to myself was they gave him that one because it was the outside of his blade. It wasn't the inside. So I was like, I guess that's like a little better than like kicking with the inside of your skate. But then Tierney's was the inside of his skate. And I think the big problem here is you see goals like that. And again, like, my assumption is always with rules, they try to make things black and white. And like, I'll say the thing, imagine a series is won in overtime on a goal like Tierney's. No, man. And that number one, and number two, you can't tell me, and we've seen the NHL in these types of situations before with those two goals, that you're setting a precedent for consistency, because there will be one similar to the Tierney one or the Stevenson one at some point this season that won't count. Like you can't tell me that. So it depends who's in the war room that day. Like, man, like the NHL, man, they got to figure that one out in a hurry, because like it wasn't a good look, I thought, anyway.
Yeah, they got to figure it out ASAP, because as soon as I saw Tierney, kick it in, I'm just gonna say he kicked it into the net. I thought back to opening night Vegas Seattle, and I said to myself, I was sitting on the couch watching the game, I go, this goal is gonna count, because the exact same goal just happened in the Vegas Seattle game, a couple of nights ago. So there's no way this goal is going to get called off. And of course it was called a good goal, but yeah, there's definitely a gray area as well. Like I do understand the whole argument that yes, it's a redirection and not a full kick, but at some point I think the NHL just has to take a stand on this rule and figure it out and sit down with these referees and notify all the teams that, okay, if you're going to thrust or jerk your skate towards the net and your blade comes off a little bit, I'm sorry, that's a kick, or it's not, and just figure it out and make it blatantly clear what this rule actually is.
No, yeah, they need to. But let's not forget that Engvall never should have given the puck away in the first place.
Good point.
So the Leafs deserved it. Good for Ottawa to punish us. And speaking of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Tyler Ennis, he set up that goal. And of course, the second goal was credited to him after it deflected off of Hall. And then I think it hit Ennis in like the arm or the body or something to trickle in the net. And then why not finish the period with another turnover and a goal from, it was Formington who scored that one.
Formington.
Yeah, for Ottawa. Nice shot. But again, another turnover. Just brutal from Toronto in that first period. Couldn't have started worse. 3-0. And even that thing of like, hey, the weird kicking goal, the one that went off Ennis, it's like, hey, we're down 2, but let's just get out of this period. No, they got to score. It was like 2 seconds left in the period just to make it 3-0.
It's right on brand. The Leafs, like for the last few years, they either give up goals within like the first 2 minutes of the game or within the last like 10 seconds of a period. Yeah, that's just right on brand with Toronto Maple Leafs hockey.
What was disappointing too, it was Kasha who was the giveaway on the third goal, and I thought he's looked pretty good. And other than that single play in the first 3 games, like nothing's gone in for him, but creating chances, skating hard.
Yeah, definitely a giveaway there, but also like a couple weird bounces.
Yeah,
like it went off like a couple skates and it goes like right to Formington. But like you said, Lepore, there's no excuses for that period.
No,
like
horrible.
it was not a good period for the Leafs.
Horrible. So as I mentioned, Leafs go into the second period, down 3-0. Forsberg was crazy. He was absolutely crazy. He stopped Bunting in close. No, sorry, Bunting was the breakaway. Bunting had that clear breakaway that he stopped. And there were some other ones in close that he was able to get parts of his body on. So Leafs go into the third down by 3 goals, facing a hot goalie in a bad situation. But in comes Superman, everyone's favorite Toronto Maple Leaf, former Sen, Jason Spezza, with an absolute clapper of a power play goal. And it's funny, because Spezza, if I remember correctly, I may be wrong about this. Comment down below if you're an equipment snob. I'm pretty sure he was the last player in the NHL to use a wood stick. I might be wrong.
Right, Lepore.
Yeah, so I find he takes a slap shot in a style or technique that resembles a wooden stick, as opposed to how these guys shoot it now with more of their body turned like a composite stick. And again, comment down below if you're a coach, you can explain that exactly. But it just, what a bomb, like top corner, great shot from Spezza.
He's so smooth. He's just so smooth out there. Even he's 38 years old and he's moving around like he's 28.
What a guy. And of course, in Jason Spezza fashion, he sets up the second goal, which, like we said, was probably Toronto's best player or best skater these first 3 games. Willie Nylander with the snipe, 2 power play goals from Toronto. So that was a good sign. I mean, they'd won in the first game, 2 in the second game. And as we mentioned on our show last week, like one thing Leafs fans were dreading was a poor power play continuing into this season. And it's looked so good. It's looked good so far. So here were the Toronto Maple Leafs down 3 goals after a brutal first period, 2 straight goals on the power play in the third, lots of time left, giddy up, let's go. But from there, you have some refereeing decisions that went against the Leafs. And first things first, I'm not going to blame this loss on officiating because number one, the Leafs don't deserve anything if they go down 3-0 to put themselves in this situation. And I also will say the Leafs got some calls that were pretty sketchy too. So if you mention the weak calls, the missed calls, and then the tyranny kick-in goal, this was a nightmare for the officials. Like I thought this was an absolute nightmare for the officials. And the blown calls I'm referring to are that trip on Hall. And it was such an example to me, such an example of they gave Toronto those 2 straight power plays and then Hall skates in and he gets tripped up. And there was that thing of like, they're not going to give Toronto 3 straight.
God forbid.
It's like
another power play.
They're not going to give
them a couple power plays.
Yeah,
God forbid we call this game by the rules.
Exactly. And it was funny. So there was a guy in a Sens jersey. Because like I said, the officiating was bad on both sides. A guy in front of me in a Sens jersey turned to me and said, of all the ones they've called all game, that was the one they decided not to call. It's like, yeah, you put your arms up, like NHL, explain this to us at some point. And then the big talking point at the end of the game was that play from JT when he stripped the puck from Connor Brown. It was a stick check. And he gets that call again. It's just to essentially end the game. And what's crazy to me, and again, it's not even like a hockey topic, it's like an overall sports topic. Here you're officiating a game and a team is down 3-0, comes back, scores 2 goals. They pull their goalie, giddy up for like an intense last minute of the game where this team's going for it. And like, you have the balls to like call that. Like, even if you thought it was like maybe he got him, like you fire your arm up just to end the game. It's like I was like, compare that to like the questionable red card in the World Cup. Like, you had the balls to give a player a red card in the World Cup on something that could have went either way.
Those refs at the Canadian Tire Center, they thought that you bought a ticket to come watch them ref. Well, that's what they thought.
Yeah, just kicking me in the nuts. Well, you know what's funny, and I'll tell this story. I swear, man, the Sens know when Michael Lepore is in the building. So we go in, and it's already, I'm not going to call it like a bad situation. It is what it is because people who have gone to games so far, there's the vaccination checks. So there's the big line before you scan your tickets to check your vaccination and match it up with your ID. So you're waiting. We do that. Everyone's kind of in a hurry to get in there. You go through security. We go to scan our tickets and they come in as invalid.
Come on.
Our tickets came up as invalid. And what else can they do? They're like, oh, your tickets are invalid. Like they're not actually going to let you in. So we go to the ticket booth. They put the tickets in the system, and apparently the tickets had already been scanned in because they're all on phones now. Like, I don't know if any teams are doing paper anymore. I think I even heard the Leafs have gone fully electronic. So we had to call the person who gave us the tickets, who called his rep. And what happened was this guy bought 2 extra pairs of tickets, and the rep accidentally sent him 2 of the same pair as opposed to 2 different pairs.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
The people had gotten in there before us and had already scanned their tickets. And so we had the same tickets and they wouldn't scan in. Either way, our tickets were in the second bowl and they apologized to us by putting us in the first bowl. So that was nice of the Ottawa Senators organization. But yeah, sometimes they know Lepore is in there with his Leafs cap, and they're going to stick it to him, whether it's his tickets aren't going to work or his coffee is going to be cold, or I don't know, his pizza is going to be burnt, like something. Like the Leafs,
know you're there to cause problems.
Yeah, it's just me, right? Michael Lepore is that obnoxious Leaf fan that all the people in Ottawa just know and love, right? But bad game for the Leafs. If you put your hands up in the air, again, some bad officiating, again, both ways, but You can't go down 3-0. You can't turn the puck over twice, guys. You can't get that many shots and not capitalize. Toronto finished that game with 48 shots. Like, Ottawa had their chances. They had 36 shots. Toronto had a 25-shot third period. And they were able to get the 2 goals then, but you can't turn the puck over. You can't go down 3-0. You can't have that kind of start. And then you can't not capitalize on your opportunities. So it's a fair result. Like, if I sum it all up, like, after all that, Toronto did not deserve to win this game. And props to the Sens. They had a great night with the announcement of Brady Tkachuk, and they start with a win over their in-province rival who they all hate and love to beat. So high five to the Ottawa Senators, man.
Yeah, big win for the Sens in their first game of the season. Like you said, Brady Tkachuk in the building, firing up the crowd. And Anton Forsberg, that guy's a beast.
Matt Murray, man. I don't know what's going on there, but he's got to be worried about his job.
It's getting a little sketchy. It's almost starting to remind me of the Panthers situation with Bobrovsky. And actually, Bobrovsky's off to a decent start this year. But man, oh man, that Matt Murray contract, and with the way that Anton Forsberg is playing right now, I mean, he made like some 10-bell saves, and not even just in that game. We'll talk about the Saturday night game as well, but man, that dude has been on his game. But you know what? One positive thing from the Leafs, I did like the fight. How they, you could go down 3-0 in the first period off those turnovers and stupid bounces and all that crap, and you could just pack it in. Especially
on a back-to-back.
Exactly. Especially on a back-to-back, you can pack it in. And then especially with your goaltender going down to injury in the second period, you could just throw your hands in the air and say, you know what? Fuck this. It's just not our night. But that third period, the Leafs, they were coming, and they were coming hard. Yeah. Outshot the Sens, like we said, 25-10. You just felt like that game was going to go to overtime. And like you said, Lepore, like the call on John Tavares at the end, that was incredibly soft. It ruined what would have been a thrilling final 2 minutes of that game. But, at the end of the day, it was just too little too late. You can't just decide to start playing hockey halfway through the game or after 2 periods. And if the Leafs just went into every game just pretending that they were down 2 or 3-0,
yeah, exactly,
they would have like 2 Stanley Cups by now.
Oh, easily. But to the point,
I won't go that far, but
to the point of like how the Leafs didn't deserve it and how like they were asleep for a lot of that game. You mentioned before how we've gotten kind of used to the little points, but how Money Puck had the Leafs winning this game. Money Puck had the Sens in this game. I think it was like 55%. They had the underlying numbers in favor of the Sens. So don't blame anything. I mean, and what's funny is even beyond the turnovers, like typically like a turnover goal won't contribute a lot to like the underlying numbers because it's kind of fluky in its own right. So Ottawa got 2 goals on turnovers and still was further ahead in Money Puck. So like,
I think that makes sense because the Senators had a ton of quality chances the other way.
Yeah. When it was 3-2, Campbell made some big, and I will say, so I was sitting behind Mrazek in the second period and he made some saves, man.
He made some big time saves before leaving due to injury.
Yeah. Like he had some rebound control problems, like make of that what you want. It's early in the season, but he made like when it was 3-0, like Ottawa had some chances. It could have been 5-0 easily, but he came up pretty big. So
yeah, it was just too little, too late for the Leafs, and they just can't be doing that crap moving forward, where they're allowing teams to take control of the game, in the first 10 minutes throughout the first period. And you know what? The Leafs were able to bounce back in the third game of the week. Michael Lepore,
yeah,
which we will shift to our attention to now. Hockey night in Canada, first Saturday night of the NHL season. The Senators in Toronto to face the Leafs at Scotiabank Arena. And it was a nice bounce back performance for the Leafs. So some notes on this game. Bizarre. At the morning skate, we found out that the Leafs signed U of T goalie Alex Bishop to an amateur tryout to back up Jack Campbell. This was due to injuries and cap constraints.
Yeah.
And, you know, it had a lot of people rolling their eyes like, oh my God, 3 games into the season and the Leafs are already in cap trouble. Here we go again.
Yeah.
And before you beat on the Leafs for that, there's other teams going through this. The Colorado Avalanche going through a similar situation. They're dealing with COVID. Nathan McKinnon has been out with COVID. They've had some other injuries. So I believe in their game on Saturday night, they had to go with 19 skaters because of the exact same issues the Leafs are dealing with. Now, again, the Leafs aren't dealing with COVID or anything like that, but similar situations. So luckily, the University of Toronto goalie did not have to play on Saturday night like we saw with David Ayres in February of 2020, which actually ended up being one of the most magical nights in recent NHL history. So maybe it actually would have been kind of cool if Alex Bishop was able to get into the game, but that must have been a cool moment for him and his family, because again, that's a guy that will probably never play in the NHL. Right?
Oh, dude, he plays
CIS hockey.
Yeah, what do they call it now? They don't call it U Sports.
Oh, yeah, it's U Sports now.
Yeah, to me, I'm like you. To me, it'll always be the CIS. But yeah, he got his jersey. He got to hang out with the boys, and you get 1 day salary. Am I correct? Like 1 day league, which is like $3,500. Yeah, it's like $3,700 or something, like whatever the math is of league min divided by 200.
Pretty damn cool just to sit on the bench.
Yeah, there's a good buddy of mine who he's in Toronto. He was the goalie for Queens U, and he has done some work with the Maple Leafs in his career. And he's even like practiced with some of the Leafs because he's a goalie, so they need goalies, and he has some connections on the inside. Even, do you remember for the outdoor game, the Centennial Classic, they did like an All-Stars game, like an Old Stars game with the Red Wings. So he was the goalie, and they needed a goalie in practice, a second goalie. It's like him and Joseph, like we're on the ice. Awesome. So I was like, man, you got to get on this list for like the emergency goalie thing, right? Like one day, and knowing this guy, it's like, yeah, one day he will get the call and go in and play amazing just because he's that guy. But no, yeah, great moment for the kid, great story to tell, and I'm sure he'll have that jersey framed on his wall for the rest of his life.
Oh, big time. That's a moment he will never forget. And also some other things from this game. So Timothy Liljegren replaced Justin Hall, who was out with a cold. So we finally got to look at Liljegren. And it was the Leafs' depth that came through in this game. Wayne Simmons, Alex Kerfoot, and Michael Bunting all scored their first goals of the season. Shout out to Scarborough, Ontario, home of Wayne Simmons and Michael Bunting. So that was cool to see the hometown guys get on the board. And Jack Campbell with another strong game, 20 saves in the win. And one stat, Lepore, that I want to bring everyone's way. This actually kind of blew my mind. The Leafs, did you know, without Auston Matthews in the lineup, so since his rookie season, without Matthews in the lineup, the Leafs are now 25-14-2. It's pretty damn good without your best player. So, you know what? This team right now, and that's my biggest takeaway, is that, you know, you could say that Tavares and Marner are off to a slow start, which they are. They both have 1 point in 3 games, but the entire lineup is in flux without its number one center. You look at any team, when you take out your number one center, guys have to move up. Guys are playing out of position. The minutes are all over the place. So for the Leafs to go 2-1 over the first 3 games without Auston Matthews in the lineup, I think every Leaf fan would have taken that if you said before the start of the season that they'd go 2-1 the first week without 34 in the lineup. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was a great bounce back performance, probably their most complete game of the season over those first 3 games. Yeah. And another thing, Lepore, thank God, the Leafs don't play another Canadian team until November 12th against the Calgary Flames, because I am sick and tired of facing the Habs, of facing the Senators, of facing these other Canadian teams. I am so glad they're finally going to play some American teams.
Yeah, even went back into the exhibition games, right? Because they're all just playing each other. Like, oh my God, like same teams over and over again. I heard Suzuki on a podcast, and he did say, like, oh my God, it got boring. Like by the end of last season, like just playing the same teams over and over again in the same buildings, like just got so stale. And they're human, right? It's just, you can totally relate to that idea. The thing about this game compared to the first game against the Sens was quick start. It was the opposite. You mentioned Simmons got that goal, and then it was Kerfoot from Nylander who had a great shot. And Kerfoot took a lot of criticism in the first 2 games. I don't think he had a shot on goal through the first 2 goals of the first 2 games in the season. And with Matthews out, I mean, you're getting more opportunities, so you have to take advantage. And he was able to in the second game against Ottawa. Fitting, Forsberg in there again, standing on his head. That save he made on Tavares on that back end, is that already like save of the season material debate? Will it be on the list, like the Sports Center top 10, you think?
I think it'll be in consideration. I don't want to go and say I don't want to jump the gun and say it's going to be the save of the year, but I'm pretty confident that's probably one of the top 5 to 10 saves of the year for sure. When it's all said and done. Like, that was nuts. And I just feel bad right now for Tavares and especially Marner. Like, even thinking about when the Sens had an empty net on Saturday night, and you could just tell both of them were just dying to score. And Marner was just like, please, I need a goal so bad. Like, and they still couldn't put the puck in the net. So those guys, and you know what? Each of them have 12 shots on goal over the first 3 games. They're getting their opportunities, but they are dying to score a goal. And I hope it comes soon for both of those guys.
I'm glad you set that up for me, Bruno, because I wanted to talk about Marner. Okay. He, to me, has been very frustrating in these first 3 games. And I'll tell you why. You mentioned how he is creating chances. He is getting shots on goal. But here's this kid who could not score last year in the playoffs. And it's continued in the first 3 games of the regular season. And I have defended Mitch Marner. Very strongly. And Mitch, I'm running out of material, man. Like, I'm running out of ammunition. And what's frustrating to me is that he can't stop overthinking things. There were 2 plays specifically in the third period. He had a breakaway where he did that thing where he comes in, and what I'll say about Marner and his play at the moment is that it's just so incredibly predictable. So he's in on this breakaway and the puck's in front of him as opposed to his side where the goalie might think you're going to shoot it. And you just knew he was going to deke. And the goalie knows that, like the way he's going into coming at you. And it's got to be a confidence thing. Like, he's lost all confidence in his shot. And I was saying to someone the other day, go on YouTube and watch Marner's first NHL goal. If I remember correctly, it was against the Bruins, and he came firing down the right wing, and he rifles a shot low on the far side, bottom corner. And look at it now, and you're like, where the hell is that? Like, I can't remember the last time Marner scored a goal like that. And then there was another play where the Leafs came in, and it was sort of like a quasi 3-on-1, and Marner had space, and he opened up to kind of give himself a chance to distribute to one of the 2 other players. He ended up passing it to Tavares, but again, predictable. It was just the way he came in. There was no doubt in my mind he was going to pass it. Like, I just knew, number 1, his confidence. He's not going to shoot it. And then number 2, like the way he physically went in, turned his body. He's like, well, now Forsberg knows you're not going to shoot it from there. Like, you're not going to beat him from there. So that's what's annoyed me about Marner. And this kid took a lot. He took a lot this summer for his performance. And I'm sure he's spoken to some people about it, both with regard to his headspace as well as his play actually on the ice. And I hope for his sake, he can turn this around, man. Mitch needs a big season, like, more than anyone. And I'm just continuing to see the same things. It's predictable, and he's just overthinking everything. Like, I know it sounds so overly simplistic to say shoot the puck, but shoot the puck, Mitch. Come on, bud. Like, fire it on the net. Like, it'll go in eventually. And the way I put it is, every time he gets a chance or a semi-chance, and going back to that breakaway, he tries to walk it in. Like, fully deke it in, or like, even if it's on him, it's like he makes a move and then dishes it. Like, shoot it, Mitch. Shoot it. Man, like, not good from him so far. And I've been frustrated. And for his sake, I really hope he can turn it around, man, because it's going to be an ugly season on Twitter for Mitch Marner if this continues.
You know what, Lepore, it's interesting you're bringing up all this stuff about his shot. And I do agree with you that he is overthinking things. And you can tell this is starting to take a toll on him. And especially, I just think back to that empty net, like I alluded to on Saturday night. Like, he would probably usually try to make a pass. Like, I think Tavares was kind of open on, like, he was like free in the circle, and he could have just made like a quick little like cross ice pass to Tavares. But Marner was like, screw this. I need a goal here. I need to get the monkey off my back. And then he shot it. His shot ended up getting blocked. And you could just tell he was so frustrated. But Lepore, from my perspective, I think he's actually shooting more than usual. Like, there are still instances where he is holding onto the puck and he is predictable. But I've noticed he is shooting the puck maybe a little bit more than he usually does. And I don't know, maybe that's because people have gotten in his head in the offseason saying that, like you said, he is too predictable. He doesn't shoot the puck enough. And I know that he did work on his shot in the offseason. I think that was something that came out. I forgot which reporter had mentioned this, but even like him and Matthews, I think at one point were working on their shots. I could be totally off on this.
Yeah, but Matthews really has to work on his shot.
I think they were working together at one point. Just even like in training camp at one point, they were just kind of working on their shot. And Marner's a guy who obviously doesn't have close to the shot that a guy like Auston Matthews does, right? But there are times where I'm just seeing Marner kind of fire the puck on net from like stupid angles and not making the best decisions. But I'm just looking like 12 shots in 3 games. He's averaging 4 shots on goal per game. That's well above his career average. So,
sure.
So I do hear you saying that, you know, he's still maybe not shooting the puck enough, but I think where we can both agree is that he's not playing with a ton of confidence right now. Like, yes, he's gotten some opportunities and he probably should have more than 1 point in 3 games based on the scoring chances that both he has had and that John Tavares has also had. But you can tell it's weighing on him. And again, I think back to the dying moments of the Saturday night game against the Senators, where this dude can't even score on an empty net after going through that entire playoff series against Montreal without a goal. You know, we all know that he has, 1 goal in his last like 18 playoff games. And now he's gone scoreless through the first 3 games of the season. He's got to get that monkey off his back ASAP, Lepore, because like you said, Twitter, I mean, Leafs Nation has already turned on Mitch Marner to a certain degree. And if this continues, if this slump goes, you know, another week, a couple of weeks,
especially if Matthews is out.
Yeah. God forbid this goes, you know, another month where after the first month of the season, he's only got 1 or 2 goals. Then, man, oh man, if I'm Mitch Marner, and I know he does stay away from social media, but I'm not even thinking about logging into social media if that's the case.
Yeah, to me, that breakaway was just the perfect microcosm of all this. Like, he's getting on goal, and I'm sitting in my chair. I'm like, he's gonna deke, and he's gonna wait too long on his move, and he's gonna give the goalie an opportunity to get there, and it's exactly what happened. Just it's between the ears. It's 100% between the ears. Like, I'll put it this way: had Marner just shot on that breakaway, like 5-0 or quick move, try to go low blocker or something, I would have been like flabbergasted. Like, what? Like, I would have been happy for him that he let it go, but I would have been completely shocked if he shot the puck. And that's just, I guess, what we're getting used to now at this point, but I'm sick of it. So he better start shooting and he better start scoring.
I think we're all sick of it. And it seems like the chemistry between Marner and Tavares is just like gone. Like, I don't want to say it's totally gone because, again, they've gotten their chances, but I think back to Tavares' 47-goal season.
Yeah, it was
those
crazy.
Two were playing together on a consistent basis, and it just seemed like they always knew where each other were on the ice. But even thinking back to like last season when Matthews was out for a little bit with his wrist problems, and even now seeing Marner and Tavares start the season together, it just seems like they can't reestablish what they had going back a couple of seasons ago. And I think when Matthews gets back, it's obviously going to help this entire offense in general, because the top 6 is finally going to be the actual top 6 that Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas want this team to have. Like, you're now going to have Matthews down the middle as the 1C playing with Marner and probably Nick Ritchie, who I also want to talk about. And then on the second line, you're going to have Nylander and Tavares reunited with whoever it is, whether it's Michael Bunting. I know Ilya Mikheyev was slated to begin the season as that guy on the second line, but he's obviously out now for 8 weeks. So when Matthews comes back, I think things are going to come back to normal. There's going to be some more positive regression, especially with these star players and their point totals. But right now, it hasn't been great. And Lepore, I want to bring up Nick Ritchie because he's been brutal.
I've noticed he's been worse than brutal. I've barely noticed him.
Exactly. I haven't even heard the play-by-play guy mention him.
Yeah,
it's like what, maybe once a game they're mentioning Nick Ritchie. Like, this guy's been an absolute ghost. Pointless in 3 games, just 3 shots on goal, has not created a single scoring chance just based on the eye test. I can go on Natural Stat Trick and look at some underlying numbers and maybe find some things, but this guy has been invisible, and he was the highest paid guy of all of those depth signings that Kyle Dubas made in the offseason. He's the guy that's getting the first crack with Matthews and Marner. And again, when Matthews comes back, we're going to see how that works out. And I think they're giving Ritchie a little bit of a leash because they want to see how he looks like when Matthews and Marner are actually playing together on a line with him. So, but right now, man, it hasn't been good. And I think some of these other players, these other depth guys, are proving that they're more effective than Nick Ritchie, whether it's Michael Bunting, whether it's Andre Kasha, even Wayne Simmons has a goal.
Yeah.
I'm like the number one, like I'm always bashing on Wayne Simmons for, being invisible out there, and he's got a goal and he's creating more chances than Nick Ritchie is. So what's your take on the Ritchie situation, man?
I'm worried, man. Because again, it's not even a matter of like, oh, it's not going in for him. No. Like he could have not played and I barely would have noticed. I'm sure people will be quick to say that he was brought in to be a third guy on a line, whether it's with Matthews and Marner or later with Tavares and Willie. But like you said, he was paid more and given term compared to the other guys who were brought in. And then you see Bunting, who we haven't got to yet in this game. We'll sum it up. He scored the winning goal or scored the third goal. And Bunting's been everywhere. He's like the new Toronto Maple Leafs ragdoll. Like he's falling. Even on the second goal, I forgot to mention, he took a hit. He took a hit to help set up that play. The puck went around to Willie. Bunting's like embraced that role, man. Like he's been great so far. He's
drawing penalties as well. Like he's doing a lot of things to contribute.
Awesome. And then Nick Ritchie again. The name everyone knew. And I'm not gonna say we all got excited when we signed him, but raise some eyebrows. Hey, Nick Ritchie on the Leafs, pretty cool. And no, not good so far. Like we're not going to completely dump on him because of the Matthews situation, and he will be on a line with a lot more talent, and hopefully there's some consistency there. But so far, it's an F for Nick Ritchie as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and especially seeing how he played in the preseason, and that one game sticks out to me where he scored 2 goals. He was a great net front presence in the preseason, showed that he has a quick shot in tight in the slot. And you thought, this guy's probably going to, playing with Marner and Matthews all season is probably just going to sleepwalk his way to 15, 20 goals, no problem. But now watching him over the first couple of games, he's really got to pick it up. And you know what? I'm sure Sheldon Keefe, just like we saw in the All or Nothing documentary, when he called out Jimmy Vesey. And again, I don't think this is a Jimmy Vesey situation where Nick Ritchie's going to get placed on waivers or anything like that. I mean, they're giving the guy like $2.5 million a season, but they're going to have to pull him aside and say, listen, we need to see more from you in a top 6 role or else you're going to be demoted into a bottom 6 position at this point, whether it's on the 3rd line or even the 4th line. And you would hate to see that with a guy you're paying, $2.5 million to, but we could get there with Nick Ritchie sooner rather than later, unfortunately.
Yeah, hopefully not, man. Hopefully not. Go
ahead.
Just to sum up the game, all in all, like you said, Toronto did really play a complete game. The shots finished 29-21 in favor of the Leafs, and Money Puck had the Leafs winning that game. I think it was 63% of the time. But we haven't touched on it, man. The Leafs caught a break the Leafs caught a break on that Batherson goal. Like here you were, the Leafs dominating 2-0 and total mess on that penalty kill on the first goal from Norris, like wide open in front of the net. Like, guys, what are you doing? Leaving a guy wide open in front of the net like that, especially a player talented like Norris. And then to be playing as well as they were playing, and they give up that second goal to tie it. It was late in the second, I believe, if I remember correctly. Just put your hands up like, okay, here we go. Now we got a roller coaster of a third. But like, that was as close as it gets to being onside, man. Like that, like I even thought like the commentators seemed pretty confident that it was going to be called back. And I was kind of hesitant saying,
I was
like,
the same as you. I was like,
is that
I
conclusive? Like,
goal.
Yeah. And like, it took time. It definitely took some time, but funny margins, right? Like if we're doing this podcast today and the Leafs are 1-2, losing 2 straight to the Sens after a bad start and blowing a 2-goal lead at home, like our mood's a lot different.
People are already panicking.
Yeah. And we were a centimeter away from that point. But I mean, it was kind of like an ugly goal from Batherson, but a lot of effort there, man. Like how he was on the ice sliding and like the celebration, like kind of cool to see. But yeah, I don't know. The Leafs dodged a big bullet with that one. Big bullet. Stützle too, man. Stützle had a great game. He was flying everywhere. He undressed Brody.
Oh, that was so sick.
Oh my God.
That kid is disgusting.
There was that one play and you can see it coming. Like Brody is kind of got the angle on him. And you're like, don't commit. And he committed and Stützle just went whoop. And like around him, and thank goodness Campbell made the save. But I thought Stützle was kind of quiet in that first game, but no, he looked good last night, man. He definitely looked good.
Yeah, Stützle just jumps off the screen. He makes 1 or 2 plays every game, and like you said, maybe he wasn't that great in the first game on Thursday that you went to, but my goodness, I mean, there's moments throughout the game. When you see a player do that, you just know they're special.
Yeah.
You just know they're going to be a star in the league. And that Lepore, I guess, brings us into a conversation about the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
Who, you know what? It's been a solid start to the season. They're playing without Brady Tkachuk, obviously. And I'm happy that they were able to sign him before the start of the season. And this didn't drag into the season like the Nylander contract saga a couple of years ago. But what's your early take on this Ottawa Senators team? Because, we already alluded to this throughout the podcast, but they play really hard. They seem to be well coached by DJ Smith. They're getting really good goaltending. And I think they're probably going to have some tough decisions to make when Matt Murray comes back into the lineup, because I don't know, man, if he doesn't play well and if he doesn't do that right off the bat, then, I mean, there's going to be a situation here where they're splitting starts. Or maybe they just say screw it and they just end up rolling with Anton Forsberg. But you're
forgetting about Gustafsson, man.
And Gustafsson as well.
Yeah, he looked good last year too. He's kind of the future, I think, in their eyes. But it's going to be fun to pay attention to. About the Sens in general, from what I've seen from these first 2 games, and I'm not completely shocked by it at all. It's funny, you're from Ottawa. I'm going to watch a lot of the Ottawa Senators this year, man. Like they are a fun team to watch. They're young, they're fast, they create scoring chances. And from what I saw in that game, especially last night, is even though they only put up 1 goal, and it was on the power play for that matter, you do not want to get into a track meet with this team because they have the talent, the speed to bury you. They kind of like almost like those Leafs teams from a couple of years ago, where it's like they were winning games like 6-4 or 5-3 all the time. And almost like a track meet was a good thing for
all
the Leafs.
Anti-Babcock games where he wanted to literally like send everyone down to the minors when the Leafs would win 6-4.
Yeah. So like the Sens are kind of in that similar like time of their ascent, kind of like the Leafs were. But fun to watch, man. A lot of likable guys too, like Batherson, Formanton, Norris, Brady Tkachuk, like who doesn't like Thomas Chabot? And they play fast, like where you can see things like, and again, I saw it a lot last night. You could see like the lack of maturity in some of the way they play, some of the plays they were making. I know it's like, maybe the guy should have not committed there, or there would have been a safer decision, but DJ Smith's letting them play. And it's 100 miles an hour all the time with the Ottawa Senators. And they're a team too. And last night's an example, because they have that speed and because they're so good vertically, you can dominate them. All it takes is one rush the other way. Like they're going to get a 2-on-1 or a breakaway or something like, and to that point too, like power plays, like they have weapons. You've Stützle, and no one scores more ugly goals than Brady Tkachuk. You've Chabot at the point, Batherson, Norris, Formanton can all shoot it. Ennis has had a good start. The Sens, man, they'll be a very, very fun team to watch this year. And like I said, I'm going to be tuning in a lot because even as a neutral and as a person who just loves hockey, it's going to be a blast to watch them.
It's an exciting team, and I like that DJ Smith is letting them play this style because they have the personnel.
Right.
And again, it's not like all of these guys are at the peak of their powers. Like they're all young guys mostly, right?
Sure.
But I love that he's letting them play this style and he's not trying to, win games 3-2 and play a more defensive structure. And all that stuff is important, especially come playoff time. That's something that an issue the Leafs have dealt with, especially in the Matthews and Marner era where they haven't been as tight defensively. That's changed over the last couple of years. But right now, based on the personnel the Senators have throughout the lineup, I mean, let these guys use their talent. Let them skate. Let them fly around the ice.
Let them make mistakes. It's fine.
Exactly. And you know what? If they finish out of a playoff spot, which they most likely will, and who knows, maybe they're competing for a wild card spot at the end of the season and proving a lot of people wrong. Like, who cares? They're still rebuilding. They're probably going to get another solid draft pick. These guys are going to continue to get older and better. And I think they're on a very, very nice path here to becoming a really, really good hockey team. And like you said, Lepore, they're going to be an exciting team to watch the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's good, man. Like Sens fans, it's been a lot of negativity for them. And like we mentioned, the Brady signing earlier and how he committed. Chabot had already committed. Next on the list is Norris and Stützle. But if you're a Sens fan, man, like, you're excited, and thank goodness they went back to the old jerseys. What a great call,
100%
by the organization on that one.
These jerseys were definitely the play.
Yeah, the black one's sweet, but Sens, man, Sens going to be fun this year, and why not just add another team to the division that can beat you any night of the week?
Yeah, this Atlantic division. I mean, just based on the first week of the season, it's going to be tough. Even Detroit. Like they had a 6-3 lead on Tampa the other night.
I caught that game, the end of that game when I got home.
Tyler Bertuzzi, 4 goals. I'm like, oh my God. Like Tampa's about to go 0-2. And then of course the Lightning find a way to come back and win the game 7-6 in overtime.
Yeah. 2 blown 3-goal leads. Unbelievable.
Crazy. But it just goes to show like this division this season. I mean, you can't take a night off. Like it's just going to be really tough. And I can't wait until the Leafs actually play some of these teams. Cause like we said, we're sick and tired of playing the same Canadian teams over and over, but yeah, it's going to be awesome to finally play some American teams. But Lepore, before we wrap up the podcast, any final thoughts on the week that was, or anything you're looking forward to in the week ahead?
Glad to have the first, week out of the way. We're not gray yet. As the season goes on, I'm sure we'll get more gray. But if I'm not mistaken, the next game is against the New York Rangers. Weird.
Thank God.
Yeah, team from south of the border. So looking forward to that. It'll just be cool for Leafs fans to watch their team play against someone who's not a Canadian team, and a little more excitement. And like, I'll be honest here, like, I consider myself a 10 out of 10 hockey fan. There is that part of me that feels like I've kind of lost touch with a lot of teams because they're never playing. I mean, I watch every Leaf game and these teams weren't playing the Leafs. So just I'm looking forward to like gaining some of the familiarity I've lost over the last year with like some lineups teams have, some depth they have. And again, as a hockey fan, I'm just looking forward to it.
You said it, man. I think all of Leafs Nation is excited to finally play some new teams and see what these American teams are up to, what they look like. Because like you said, right, you lose familiarity unless you're playing fantasy hockey or you're betting on hockey every night. You kind of lose familiarity with what some of these teams are all about. So it's going to be awesome to finally play some teams south of the border. So next week Monday night, the Leafs got the Rangers at home. Then they host the Sharks on Friday night and then have a back-to-back. They play on Saturday again on the road against the Pittsburgh Penguins. So should be a pretty exciting week for the Leafs, and we'll see what they can do against some of these American teams.
Awesome.
But that is going to do it for episode 37 of the Gluttons for Punishment podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Once again, if you are a new listener and you enjoy the show, it would be a big time help if you give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple. And if you're watching us on YouTube and you enjoyed the content, then we would appreciate it so much if you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the notification bell so you know exactly when the GFP podcast is posting some new content. All right, everybody, that does it for this episode. For Michael Lepore, I am Anthony Bruno, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.